Log on to kcbzradio.com and check the schedule for Situation and Circumstance Live, complete with music, live phone call access, and additional audio and programming. Anthony and TBT would love for you to be a part of the live broadcast and recording of Situation and Circumstance at kcbzradio.com.
Situation and circumstance. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. Can we see each other with only a glance? Situations and circumstances. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. Can we see each other with only a glance?
Cake mix and race mixes, matrix, kill the witches, 3 digits, made of 6s.
Once again, trying to avoid it is not a lonely.
Yeah. Welcome to Situation and Circumstances. Of course, we're here at kcbzradio.com. And here's your host, Mr. Classiq, ACE, another classic entertainer. And I'm here with some of my beautiful friends and co-hosts.
Thank you.
Hello.
Oh, that's the most he done ever said. He done said thank you twice. Usually, how you doing?
I thought you was
all right. Right. Okay. Well, how you guys doing today? That's Julius right there. Say hello to the people.
What's going on?
And of course, we have Tiana.
Hello.
Say hello to the people. She
Hi,
like I just
hi.
said hello, but that felt more like hello.
Hi,
Like
I'm sensational, amazing.
Ooh. Nice.
Sensational.
And you know what's also sensational and amazing about today is that we're going to talk about a few things, of course. That's what we do here. We're going to talk about one-night stands. We're going to talk about garden tools. And, of course, another word for garden tool is a
hoe. You know, say a hoe.
Hey. Yeah. Wait, when you say the
Rhymes with
song, it changes the garden tool.
H-O is what I'm referring
You
to.
think that now why do adults do that? They be with their kids and their kids be like in 5th grade and they be like, yeah, you need to take that S-H-I-T out S-I-D-E so that some of them can spell, right? And
for sure.
It's all good. And then we're gonna talk about a little bit of porn and role play and getting freaky and just all kind of stuff. Because today,
get freaky with you.
hey baby, don't stop. We're gonna do that all in a moment. Keeping in mind that you can also call in at any time at 502-509-5229. That is 502-509. KCBZ. How many of you can tell that I love saying KCBZ? And so you can also call in and let us know what you're thinking. If you happen to have one of our other request lines via text message or via email, then you can also send messages that way. And if you're asking something that we can ask online, we will most certainly do that for you. This is part 4 of the relationship segment. And by the way, every second and fourth Tuesday, we sit in that sweet spot of perpetual metamorphosis, layered with perspective, because all over the world there is a situation and there is a circumstance. Can you dig that?
I can dig it.
You can dig it?
I can dig it.
All right. You know what I'm thinking?
What you thinking?
Before we go right into some of this music, and I'm excited because I love talking about sex. And there's a lot of people listening that love talking about and listening to and hearing about sex. And that's good. I mean, hey, it's sex. If it was up to me, it'd be a 18-letter word. Just a bunch of S's and X's in it. Sex. Wow. Right? But what we're going to do that's going to be interesting tonight, well, maybe I shouldn't tell them yet, huh? Hey, just stay tuned. We're gonna tell you a little bit of something that's gonna happen a little bit differently than what we normally do. Until then, let's get into this.
Log on to kcbzradio.com and check the schedule for Situation and Circumstance Live, complete with music, live phone call access, and additional audio and programming, Anthony and TBT would love for you to be a part of the live broadcast and recording of Situation and Circumstance at kcbzradio.com.
I'm on one tonight, y'all. Hey, check this out. Let me just start like this, because while that song was playing, I already received a text from somebody. They said, well, why are so divided as blacks but yet fight for the same results? Clearly, you've just tuned in. That's not the topic. We're talking about sex with 3 S's, 2 E's, and a million X's. But you know what? Hey, please pose that again, because we do talk about all those glorious things. Please call again for that. But yeah, once again, welcome back to Situation and Circumstance. And this is part 4 of the relationship series. This will be the last one of that series. And we're talking about sex. And so what is sex? I don't think I need to explain that to you, but I want to talk about one night stands. I want to talk about that moment where you wake up from the one night stand, and then what? Do you wish you hadn't have done it? Do you wish you did? Does it matter who it was? Does it matter if it was, what did we talk about last week? Polygamy and monogamy, and polyamory?
Polyamory, yep.
Right? And so, I don't know. Have either of you ever woke up from sex surprised by what had just happened, and if so, was it a positive surprise or negative?
I'm gonna plead the fifth. Okay.
Don't be pleading the fifth on a radio show.
Plead the fifth.
Oh, now who's scared? You can talk about pro-black, but you can't talk about what you do in the.
Okay, this is hypothetically. This is not me speaking. This is a friend of a friend.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it depends on who. It depends on when this person wakes up, and it's like, what? Was I that drunk, or was I that out of my mind? Was I that desperate, or was I?
Dang, desperate?
Yeah, or was it like that's one side of it?
Yeah.
Or was it like, yeah, this is dope. Like this can actually not be something, but like be something sexually.
Oh,
like
okay.
you can pursue
Like,
something
this could be a
just off
recurring
the.
thing.
Yeah, it might not have to be just a one night stand. It could be, a couple of stands.
I could dig it. A couple of stands, not just one night. How about, what's up with you, Tiana?
I never have had sex with someone and woke up was like, oh my God, no. Not intercourse, not like penetration, but I definitely have like made out with someone. But
Wait.
what?
We're
just talking about sex.
It's weird that you said made. This is interesting because you said made out, and then I'm actually older than you.
Okay.
And I remember when I was growing up, I think they used the word made out.
Uh-huh.
Then I hadn't heard it since then.
Really?
And then
Are you calling me an old soul?
No. I'm saying that well, clearly you're an old soul, but I'm thinking to myself, things that I used to think meant something have changed, right? So way back when we used to say, keep it on the down low, nobody has to know. We was talking about like if you out there and you doing your thing or cheating, or even if you ain't cheating, you out there, it's your business, keep it on the down low. Then down low turned into it meant you were gay.
Yeah.
Right? And you're keeping you a down low brother or whatever. So when you say make out, I just want to know for the listeners, what's your definition
French kissing
of
or kissing, open mouth kissing with tongue?
I like how you changed it from French to
'Cause
open
people
mouth.
might not know. French
You have to
kissing
be
is-
from France?
Yeah, you gotta be. Yeah, it might cause a little bit of confusion. Yeah, I definitely made out with someone, and I was blacked out, drunk, and I did not know until I came back the next day to a place where we both know each other, and he was like, oh yeah, we definitely made out. And I was like, no. It was not what I wanted, although he was attractive, so I was like, okay, go drunk me, pat on the back. But
Look, you lucky for that, because I wonder how many people not only listening, but well, let's just ask the question. Have you ever made out with somebody and been like,
I feel like
wow,
a lot of
did
people
I
have.
do that?
Did I do
Yeah.
that? I've had one night stand though, and at the time, it was like, oh, this is cool, whatever. It's something new. It was my first and my last one night stand because I was like, oh, let me try something. I'm exploring. This is college. Woo, woo, this is fun. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, no, thank you. And so.
But just making out.
No, the one night stand was more than making out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure So making out and one night's two different things. Making out is everything
making
but
out
sex.
is just putting your lips on somebody else's lips and maybe your tongue on their tongue. But
What lips are we talking about?
the lips on your face, man.
I'm just clear.
So-
I'm sorry. She had to define French kiss.
I like definition too because things have changed, right?
Lips, yeah,
Because I'm thinking, what if you don't kiss, but you done sucked her?
Other stuff.
Yeah, her
Thank
other
you
lips.
for-
Nooks and crannies.
Then would that still be making out if you didn't have sex, but you like
You want to be making
kissed
out?
and
That
suckled?
would not be making out. No.
So making out, if you could do everything else, but if you didn't kiss, it ain't making out. So if you don't, it is.
No.
It ain't or it
It's
is.
not making out.
So if I get with somebody and we don't kiss or
Y'all just get
screw,
straight to the point.
what if we don't kiss or screw, but we mess
Fellatio.
around in all those other ways? Well, I didn't even say fellatio.
Oh, okay.
And then
That's
some
the only
people
other
listen to
option.
this and they like, is that my Mexican partner's name? Is his Fellatio Rodriguez? No, fellatio mean what? Was that not sensitive?
That was funny. So.
Yeah, Fellatio Rodriguez. Matter of fact, it sounds like a new pop star, right?
Fellatio.
You heard it here first.
Boy band.
Right. I think what I find interesting is how candid you are about, because it seems like society makes it seem like it's different between if a man have a one night stand and what they leave as and what that woman leaves as sometimes
Different.
seems different.
Yeah.
Or would you agree with that? Or
I don't agree with society's idea of a one night stand in terms as it relates to men and women. I believe it's the same depending on how you go about it. And in my case, I vetted this person and it turns out they weren't what I thought it would be. The situation, I wanted to experience what it would be like to experience this, and I was like, nah, this wasn't what I thought. I thought this was going to be like, I don't know. I thought it was going to be just like invigorating and adventurous and fun, but
And it was not.
I don't know if it's because of the person or it just wasn't what I thought. I think I have a more enjoyable experience when I know the person somewhat. Not saying that we have to love or really like each other, just like have built something other than just briefly talking to each other.
And I think that, I mean, you can, first of all, if your goal is sex, then a nicely placed brief conversation is all you need.
Yeah, that's what some people need. I know a guy who went to the Stanford campus and went to a party, and he ended up having intercourse with a girl within a few minutes of meeting her. And he was like, that was cool. And I was thinking, I don't see myself enjoying doing that. So I guess it depends. And maybe it's different for men and women, because I know a lot of men that have had one-night stands way more than the women that I know.
Well, now it makes me feel like, well, how many women do you know? And how many
lot.
men do you know?
A lot.
A lot?
Or do they just not tell you?
It's possible. It's possible.
Because
There's room
it's a
for
bit
error.
more taboo
Okay.
for.
Researcher. He's like, there's room for some margin of error. Sorry.
I'm just saying, because they, as you, I'm sure know, it's more taboo for women to speak on these things. Unfortunately, that's the society we live in.
Yeah.
Whereas men, it's in movies, it's in shows, it's in lyrics, it's in
Which
in
is
everything we
rapidly
do.
changing, but yeah.
It is, but I'm just saying, there's like, it's.
Can I
room
tell
for
you why
that.
this? Sorry, I interrupted.
No,
No,
you
no.
did.
Do
It's
your
okay.
thing.
It's okay.
Can I tell you why this one night stand did not work out? Because this guy told me, it was over social media where we met. This is like very millennial, like over social media. We were communicating for
Right.
a little bit of time back and forth. This guy told me that he said, first of all, he said, how tall are you? And I was thinking, if a guy asks you how tall you are,
He's
that
short.
hasn't met you, he has to be short, right? And so I was like, I'm 5'8" and a
Gang.
half. Like, why? And he was just like, oh, nothing. I'm like 5'11". I'm like, all right, whatever. I don't care. Like, and so then I meet this guy. This guy's like 5'6".
You had to stand on your feet to see your titties.
Exactly. First of all, and second of all,
I said tidings.
tithes and offerings. Why would you lie about your height when you know that you're going to meet someone. First of all, that was the first thing that just killed it. I was like, all right, that turned me off. But it obviously not enough, because we ended up getting into some activities. And
situations and circumstances does not discriminate against people who are height challenged. Let's just throw that out there.
I'm 6'3". For everybody, anybody's wondering.
I was wondering, but
you just threw that in there.
I just thought
everyone shout out your height. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: what's allowable on the first night? So like if is oral on the and I don't mean the first night like, oh, I've been talking to the person the whole year and then now we finally gonna get there and whatever. I'm saying like what's allowable with you so everybody's one night stand
like
derives from somewhere different, right? So maybe you guys were at the club or at the park, at a barbecue, I don't know, at the ballet, I don't know. Let's just throw some
swinging on swings, the next thing you know.
And then
going down the slide.
Right. You was like, right. But what's allowable? Like what's acceptable or allowable one night stand behavior? Like, is it okay? Like, if is oral part of that?
I think it depends on the boundaries of the person. I feel personally that you should be as safe as possible. And so I personally wouldn't encourage someone to do any skin-to-skin contact on a one-night stand, because one thing could change your life forever. But you just, depending on the circumstance, you just never know, because some people just get into it and things just happen. But that could be the difference between you having something for life or temporarily they have to go treat. Yeah. I think that I encourage safe sex.
Well, we encourage safe sex.
Yeah.
We speaking French?
Wow, so you don't encourage safe sex,
well, not Julius. No. Julius just be out there freestyling. He just pull it out and lay it on the curve and whatever hit it.
Seriously, no, I'm the same. Because like that oral, even like kissing on the first, like I don't even know you. So like even one night stands, I know I kind of wrote this thing, but one night stands, I don't engage in that. I just, when you said something earlier, like I would rather know somebody. So if it's just for sex, all right, bet. But for me, it's not that satisfying not knowing anything but 2 hours of a person. And then just...
What if they're like
you haven't met the right person? Like there are people that in those 2 hours can... Like, I'm one of those people where if a person meets me...
He said...
what? I'm just saying. Like, no, I mean, give me 2 hours to get it, and I probably will.
Yeah, no, that's your point of view. So...
You don't think that there's a woman out there that could do that to you?
At all.
To go that far? No. And I pride myself on having a certain amount of discipline that will prohibit certain things. So I know if a chick is dope, a chick is dope. That doesn't mean sex is just like the stamp of like, yep, see, where you're dope enough to get to this. It's not like a trophy. So it sounds like you're using it as like, yep, I'm a great conversationist. I got my swags on point. Yeah, I could get sex. For me, it's levels to that. So
you said
again,
you can look at it as long as you don't grab it.
I mean, I feel like if I don't know, I think so. First of all, there's all these. Whenever we have any of our conversations, there's always some age dynamics. Those age dynamics don't define us, but it certainly means that there may be differences in the era, right? And so it's clearly a difference in my era where we didn't have like
as many STDs.
Well, that's big too. You didn't have as many, so you could freestyle your stuff a little bit more and not have to worry about something that would end your life. And then also, you couldn't send, like there was no such thing as, let's just, for sake of argument, let's call them duck pics. You couldn't send a duck pic, and you couldn't send a pussycat pic. Okay. It just wasn't Kuda Cutter Butter Snatcher, whatever you guys want to call it, right? You never heard that one. I took some people back. If you're from the South, Kuda Cutter Butter Snatcher is what we used to call it. But you weren't able to take those pics and just send it on your phone. That's not to say people didn't take those little Polaroids and take it, but those things didn't happen as much. And so I feel like, do you guys feel like there's some over sexuality happening at this point? And then what does that even mean? Like, is it over sexuality, or has it always been there and then now it's just okay, or it's the norm, or do you think it's actually new? Like,
I wouldn't call it over, because over implies something that's too much. I think I would call it hyper, as in like an increase. Like,
so there's
a lot
not
of it.
too much.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much. I think that there's a lot more because of our exposure and access to things has increased. What were you gonna say though?
I definitely I want to call out Western society. I think it's over. I think it's just too much. But if you just look at like breasts or the buttocks here in America, it's like yeah, that's out. But if you go to Africa, countries in Africa, and you see black women walking around with their naked, it's like cool. That's part of culture. But here you see just a picture of a woman in bra and panties, and that's sexy, which it is. But I could go on Twitter right now and just scroll just 3 times and see porn.
Yeah.
8 times in a span of 10 seconds. Yep. So I do believe it's over. I think it's too much.
So if
and
too
I think
much,
our mind has been tricked to think like that's dope.
So let me ask you this: what's the difference? And I'm kind of going a little bit off of what you just said, and in terms of off, I mean a little bit off that particular topic. But I'm curious. So you meet somebody. First day, you guys are really hitting it off. You kind of get this feeling that she's not, or let's not even use any of those pronouns, she or he. Let's just say you meet this person and you get the impression that this person that you have met is really interesting, and just in this one day they're interesting. They're maybe they're God-fearing, maybe they have a good job. Maybe they're intellectually sound, all these different things that maybe this person's looking for. And then, hey, they're also easy on the eyes, and as my Uncle Abe would say, they're also easy on the eyes and very sexually attractive. All right? And so then you both decide, you both feel that way about each other. You go home, and she's not ready to, now I use the pronoun again, one of the people are not ready to accept any entrances inside of their body, right? They're not ready to accept any entrances. And so they say, well, you know what? I'm just going to suck the duck and see if...
You're just going to fillet?
Yeah, I'm just going to fillet, right?
Fillet mignon.
Yeah, you know. And so then you just going to do that. And I'm wondering... Then, like, is that like, what's your opinion of that? Like, is that okay? Like, what do you say? And I know you earlier said, you know, there's diseases and different things with skin-on-skin contact. But let's say aside from that part, so I want to skip past the part of where we all should be protected and concerned, but more so, is that okay? Like, okay, like, or do you get that and you're like the next day, oh, that person sucked a duck, or that person ate the cat, and so now does that change your opinion on who? Would that change, or should that change a person's opinion on who they are, that they've done something so easily, quickly, and maybe not actually easily, but quickly, certainly, if it's that same day.
It wouldn't change my opinion, considering when I consider the circumstances. Yeah, I don't think. It depends on who the person is, and if the person shows me that they are to be respected, even though they gave it up immediately, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, nah, I wouldn't necessarily judge, but like last week, we were talking about body counts and how they don't matter, but what does matter is safety.
Yeah.
So for me, nah, that's out. Again, I wouldn't judge. Like, if that happened to somebody, I'd be like, damn, you kind of slipping. Not that you're a bad person, but that act without any protection puts you in a awkward predicament.
Okay, let's say that they wore something, which for me,
No,
because
that's
of my
out.
age, it's like I
Yeah,
ain't
no,
never.
no,
I don't
no.
even know what it feels. Well,
Yeah, I'm not talking
maybe
about
a
that.
little,
That's
but
out. That doesn't.
Okay, well, one of my podcast episodes, I have these two guys. It hasn't come out yet, but I have these two guys come on, and they were saying like, if your girl comes out of the house wearing something that's a little revealing, then she's for the streets.
what?
Yeah, like it was like social media
get with
post
that.
too. It's like if your girl leaves the house wearing this, and it was like a cute little crop top.
Yeah,
It
was
didn't
it blue?
show stomach, but her boobs look really nice, and
Yeah.
it was like open in the middle a little bit.
I think I
And
saw
they were
that.
like, that means she's for the streets. So do you agree with that sentiment?
No,
Made
not at
me
all.
use my high
Nah.
pitched black voice, like what?
Yeah, nah, not at all. I enjoy that. I encourage that. Like the women that I like are very confident with themselves. They have to be. So you, as a woman, showing your body, although like I know I gotta be your body. If I'm committed to that person, to that woman, that's all that my mind is going through. So I don't necessarily care about a crop top or leggings or not wearing a bra. I'm like,
Especially
If you
when
got
if
the-
that's what you saw when you met her,
Yeah,
then
that's
you get
out.
with her, then all of a
You're
sudden
like,
we've
no.
been together and now
Yeah.
stop wearing that. I'm not
Yeah.
saying like age could make you
Yeah.
maybe change the method at which you wear it.
no doubt.
But certainly, like, if I met you sexy, then now I'm going to tell you don't dress sexy because, I mean, there's a time and a place.
No doubt.
But, yeah, but I do know, especially, and this may be this actually has nothing to do with any age. I think that there are a lot of people that are just insecure.
That's what
And
it
they
is.
meet you at one thing, and then their plan is to convert you or conform you into something else. But I feel like if I met you sexy, be sexy that time. And then there's this old saying that they say whatever you did to get this person is what you need to do to keep them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were dressing sexy and had a sexy aura about yourself, then certainly keep that sexy aura.
But
I would think. But
Even if I didn't meet you sexy per se, it's like if that makes you comfortable and I still know like that's my chick, then it's all good. I don't care necessarily like what you wear. I don't think you're acting in a disrespectful manner. To me, I can see why it would be perceived that way. But if a chick, I think I saw that picture, was the chick wearing a blue little crop top?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
I
I
remember the color.
yeah, because I sent that to somebody
Oh, okay.
and asked her, what does she think? And we were on the same page.
Okay.
Yeah, so I
But
personally
that doesn't
don't.
translate to sex life then. Her being
No,
comfortable in
not
her
at
own
all.
skin to wear what she wants to wear, and it doesn't translate over to her being comfortable enough in her own skin to want to engage in the sexual
No.
intercourse, even if she just met someone.
Like, do what I think that she's.
Like her say she's just like, she holds herself very well. You see a woman, you go to a
Nah,
party, she
that
holds
doesn't
herself
matter.
very well. She's not out here like wild and being sloppy, and you guys hit it off in the first couple hours, and you say, I would really love to have sex with this person. You would say, let me take you on a date. What if she's like, yo, I kind of just want to go back to your hotel and see what to do? You would be like, nah.
I wouldn't. Here's what I love about what you're saying is I have such respect, and we kind of talked about this. We edged on this, which when I say edged, for those of you who are sexually aware, that means something else too, don't it?
Yeah.
But
What does that mean?
oh,
For the viewers.
Edge means
no, it ain't for the viewers. You want to know what
we
edging
defining
is.
things
Don't be
today. We
acting like
defining
you don't want to
things.
know what
Just you don't
edging
We
is.
defining things.
I tell you what, when we come back, we will define. We will not only finish that, but we will also define what
Please.
edging is for
the
those of you,
listeners.
just for the listeners. Everybody in here know what it is, but we
course.
gonna do it for the listeners. Of course, once again, you're here at kcbzradio.com, but once again, that's kcbzradio.com, and you can reach us at 502.
Log on to kcbzradio.com and check the schedule for Situation and Circumstance Live, complete with music, live phone call access, and additional audio and programming. Anthony and TBT would love for you to be a part of the live broadcast and recording of Situation and Circumstance at kcbzradio.com.
Man, so we back. My man Classiq is going to define edging for the listeners, because we all know what that is.
Yeah. No one in here learned during the break at all. We already knew.
Not me. Okay?
Edging. Edging is basically the process at which you, whether it's self-inflicted or with a friend, obviously with from perspectively with the friend, with the friend is encouraged. But it's when you are at when you're nearing the point of climax, when you're nearing that best part of the roller coaster, when you're getting ready to go down and throw your hands up and say, "Ow!" Right?
Wow.
So it's when you're getting to that point and you pull back, and then you bring yourself to that point again, or someone assists you with bringing yourself to that point again. Excuse me, and you when you pull back. So edging, that's edging. You're at the edge, or you're at the brink of explosion, and you hold back. And so that's what edging is.
Wow. Thank you. See, we're getting tons of people saying thank you because they didn't know. Okay. So.
Right. Well, now, and someone tuned in or chimed in and said they had been edging all that time and didn't even know that's what it was. They was like, "Oh, that's what you call that?"
Who would have
Said,
thought?
"I thought it was just called being grown and good." But yeah. So that's edging. So let's do this. Let's talk about. Let's move right into garden tools. And that phase at which some say, well, how would you put that, Julius? With
the hoe phase?
Okay, so yeah, there you go.
Because we have to define hoe.
And phase.
And phase. Wow, yeah, true. And
I'm done.
wow, we're going there today. See, we're defining things today.
Right.
Jesus. So
once
we're
you're
defining
here
things.
at situation and definition, definition and circumstance.
Thank you. See, we have like 4 definitions today. This is what we're doing. The hoe phase. H-O.
Right.
Because H-O-E is the gardening tool. Okay, everybody.
Oh.
So when you're texting,
Okay.
yeah, they're homophones, but they're not spelled the same. Anyway.
Wow. He's getting very.
So
Okay.
the hoe phase, and there's different definitions. How I define the hoe phase is normally it happens before entering another relationship, like that prepares you, or you just got out of a relationship. It normally doesn't happen like you break up today. It normally doesn't happen like 2 years down the road of you just being single. It has like a time sensitive thing, and you're just hoeing around. A lot of times, people who
Hung around me and being promiscuous.
being very promiscuous,
Okay.
but it normally doesn't happen. People who are in the hoe phase normally aren't hoes. That's the interesting thing about it. They're normally doing things with hoes, but normally they're not the hoe.
That's
and
why you need the phase.
That's why it's a stage. It's a phase in your life, and I don't think it's necessarily helpful. I don't think it works, but
Wait. But in order to know if it works or not, what part of whole phase are you saying a person does for something that
It
would
depends.
work?
It depends.
So that I know when you say
So-
it doesn't work. What?
So say if I'm in a relationship and I'm stripped of my confidence, like I just feel like she didn't make me feel good as a man, and I feel ugly. All of these things, my confidence is just stripped. I might hoe around. I might have a hoe phase to get that particular thing from other women, and this girl might give me that confidence. It might be very simple. It might just happen in the night. It might not even be sex. It might just be, oh yeah, you're a nice writer. She goes to my shows. My confidence is now slowly building up. But it normally turns
So
into
you
a
can hoe phase with mental stimulation.
no. But normally, like 99% of the time, it does happen with sex. I mean, that was
You're a
like
nice
a
writer.
small. Yeah, no. Normally, 99.9% of the time, sex is included.
Okay.
But sex is a tool. See the pun? You see that? Did you catch that? The whole phase. You missed it. The whole.
I'm rolling
garden
out.
That
tool.
was a great. That was. Come on.
Look at my
Anyway,
eyes rolling.
sex is normally used as a tool to get that thing that you've been missing or stripped of during that relationship.
And that's not what I thought when I heard whole
Yeah,
face.
and I started off by saying
Neither.
we have different definitions of it.
What's your definition, Tionne, of
Whoever threw
whole
that
face?
paper, your mom's a hoe. I don't know if y'all ever seen that video. It's a substitute teacher in class, and they're recording him. Kids are throwing papers at him, and he says, "I said, whoever threw that paper, your mom's a hoe." In the video, and it went viral, so it's pretty funny. Anyway.
Wild part.
I think a hoe phase is, I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna define it generally as it relates to society, because I think it has a negative connotation when society uses it. Because a hoe phase is someone who just, like Julius said, feels like they need to fill a void of some sort, so they go out and they engage in sexual acts with a bunch of people. Not necessarily like vetting all of those partners. They're kind of just doing it just to fill some type of void. Personally, I don't think it's that, taking away that negative connotation. I think that someone who even leaves a relationship or gets to a certain phase in their life that wants to explore with sexual partners, I think that that's perfectly okay. And I think that could constitute as a hoe phase. But again, I think hoe has a negative connotation. So when people think of hoe phase, they think of someone who needs to just like fill a void by engaging in sexual acts, whether it actually fills that void or not. But I think that personally, someone who engages in a lot of sexual acts to either, and there's always an end goal, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing just because you have a goal in mind. Maybe you want to figure out what you like sexually in the bedroom, start setting some boundaries, and like really get really good at having intercourse, or maybe you want the space and freedom to engage in sexual acts with who you want. So
I'm a little closer to your definition in terms of
He's talking to Tiana, everybody.
Right. No,
they
yeah, they don't know what I'm talking.
true.
I'm a little closer to what Tiana said in terms of well, in this way, I think that, so when I heard whole phase, immediately I thought of myself. I thought of myself in the way that I always say this to people. I say, well, before I had the opportunity to become a good partner, a good, whether that's boyfriend or husband to my wife or any of those things, I think that it was helpful for me to have had a whole phase. I couldn't imagine what it would have been like to have been with one woman all my life, although I have respect to those who are able to do that. I just think that it was a different mindset, and I don't think I created my own mindset of like, oh, I need more than one woman. I don't think I created it. I think it's just circumstance, situation of how you grew up or where or what things were available to you when you first started. You know, I was a nasty little kid, so I wasn't gonna be with one person when we were already playing, depending on what part of the world you're in, if you've ever heard of hide and go get it.
Hide and go get it.
Right, and goosing,
I was a
and those
kid,
are like
too.
these old, right? You did hide and go get it?
I didn't, yeah.
Right?
A lot
And
of things.
you feel what I'm saying? Then the engineer over here, he's nodding his head up and down like, yeah, I done hid and went and got it, or somebody, I was hiding and they went and got me. And so I think that, you know, that whole, you know, I respect and appreciate it for a couple of reasons. Number one, practice makes perfect. So
No, it doesn't. But I get this.
well, it can.
Makes better.
It makes better, yeah.
It can.
And it's
Can
not
it?
just
And
with
you-
it's not
multiple
perfect to-
people, but with someone.
Yeah, that's
What
subjective.
do you mean? You telling me? So here's the thing. I challenge that. I don't believe it's possible for you to get with somebody who was a virgin and them to have given you the best sex of your life comparatively to someone who was well practiced. I believe that a woman,
that's
I'm not saying somebody couldn't be fresh off the block and hot to trot right then. I ain't saying somebody just couldn't be a natural, right? It's possible. But even that natural comparatively to somebody practiced. Now, when I say practiced, I don't mean, practice doesn't mean you've laid there and you've allowed somebody to do all the work.
Yeah.
That's not what I mean. Practice
Starfish.
for me means, right. Practice to me means that not only were you, whether you were natural hoe and that's what you were and you continue to be and it's not a phase, it's just who you are, or whether it was just a phase, and depending on how long that phase may make a little bit of a difference. But if you out there and you practicing, and now that I'm hearing myself say that, I do take in consideration that there are selfish lovers, right? Who doesn't matter if they did it 100,000 times. If it was only about them that entire time, they may not have learned a lot. But compared to someone who it's their first time, I think that there's something to that, and I feel like, at least from my perspective, experiencing different women in life allowed me to learn certain things that from those who I've been with have explained and shown that they like, so that I could now see if that's the case with someone else. But now I have these tools that they gave me from that, as well as I don't have to walk around or run around or wonder what it feels like to date or what something else may feel like, because I've had an opportunity to experience sexual activity in a way that like I do feel like there's something to that. I wouldn't change that to just have been with you. I guess you could do that, or not. I guess I know you can certainly experiment with the same person.
Yeah,
so I'm not saying that you can't do that. But on the other hand, there's things that you may not want or be able to experience with that person that you would have wanted to experience because of how you feel about that person, right?
That's true.
So for instance, being married, if I want my duck sucked, right? I may want my duck sucked in a nice way, but I wouldn't be able to slap the face of my wife with my duck, because I would feel a little differently unless that's what she asked for.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but I guess
that's
I would
one
feel.
partner, right?
But I guess I'm saying, but it wouldn't mean that I wouldn't have wanted to experience with someone who's willing to have they face slap with a duck. How I would still want to experience that, or would have wanted to have experienced that with someone who's willing.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's things that you don't want to do with the person that you're now in love with and respect a certain way, in the same mouth you kiss your kids
Just because
with.
you slap her with a
you
duck
kiss
doesn't mean you don't respect her.
Yeah, because she might be married, right?
Yeah.
True.
And she's married. Save this person that you did that to, so happens to be married 10 years down the road, or a year down the road, and her husband is doing that thing that you just did. So that's the partner. You know what I mean? So those things that you have enjoyed with multiple women, that can very well be done with that one woman, if you guys are open to experiment.
It can, but there's something that happens when you're, I should say, I like the freaky, right? And I think we're gonna come back in a minute here and talk a little bit more about just the freaky aspect of it. But I like the freaky. But there is just simply things that I did in the whole phase, right?
No,
that I don't apologize for. That it was consensual on both sides. That I don't see myself doing with the person that I spend the rest of my life with. Like, let me ask you this question, both of you. 80 years old, both of you are with someone, and now you're 80. So you've been with them 10 years, 50 years, 80, or it couldn't have been 80, but you've been with them for a substantial amount of time, for decades, right? Do you still allow Senor Felicio?
Why not? You mean that's not
Your game?
Well, also personally, I'm open person sexually, so don't be alarmed, listeners, by the things that I reveal. But personally, fellatio doesn't do much for me, and maybe because the people that have done it on me are not very experienced in that category. So I haven't had an experience where someone was doing that on me where I was like, "This is fun, this is great," because I don't have much feeling exterior. exterior feeling in that area. So I wouldn't care if they did that. It's all about the penetration.
Oh, well.
Well, right now, at least. And to your point.
Right
Well,
now?
to your point. No, I'm saying right now because to your point,
Uh-huh.
I won't know if I really enjoy getting fellatio. Maybe I might meet someone that does it, and I'm like, this takes a cake. Because the men that have done it on me, hadn't done it that many times, so I don't have a good focus group, and all I know is for now I don't enjoy that happening to me, but I'm open to it happening in the future, and someone might just kill it, and I might be like, actually I do enjoy that, but I enjoy it in this way, but I don't know that right now because no one has done it in a way that made me be like, yes, I love this. So that's
Male
to your
or
point.
female.
Yeah.
have
Exactly.
done it, yeah.
And that's to your point, because I feel like I need to experience that more with different people that might have a different technique. Or
Right.
maybe tell that same person to do a different technique, but I'd rather.
Well, and you know what's interesting about that? So, and again, I love, for you listeners, we are very multi-aged. Everybody's an adult, but we're very multi-aged inside of this room. And that's part of why we do this. We want to make sure that we share these different perspectives from just a multitude of not only knowledge that has nothing to do with the age, but also the knowledge that comes from that age. But let me just be honest with you. I don't want old ass lips on my duck. I'm just being honest. Like, I can't see myself with. Think about somebody right now that's incredibly old. And I can't imagine thinking they should cane themselves over and hurt they back kneeling down or whatever. First of all, they probably can't be on their
Gotta put a
knees
pillow
that long.
down.
They
Pillow
probably
down.
won't be on their
And
knees.
hopefully by then you've thought of easier ways. But I'm just gonna be honest. Like I can't even. There's a respectful part of me that feel like. I don't feel like at a certain age. I'm not saying like if you out there and you doing it, congratulations. But I can't imagine an old woman. Even though I'll be old then too. But I still can't imagine an old mouth on my old duck. Similarly, I will be honest in saying I don't want to lick a whole lot of crevice that that has its challenging ways about itself. I'm just saying, and it's not saying I want sex. Yeah, hopefully I can go longer than my grandparents. They was busy, but what, grandfather had 30 plus kids on one side of my family, so he didn't stop. He even when he got legs cut off and stuff from being a diabetic, he was still strong with it. But I just don't, for me, I don't, and I remember there was this episode on, what was that movie? There was a movie, Analyze This, I think it was called, and it had Robert De Niro, I believe, and that other guy, and one of the things, he was cheating on his wife, right, and when he cheated on his wife, he was doing all these crazy things with the other woman, and eventually, I think Billy Crystal was in there with him. And he was Billy Crystal, and he eventually asked him, like, why do you cheat? And he said, are you kidding? I can't do all those things with my wife. And he wasn't saying that in a they can't build this relationship. It was like there's a part of him that felt like the things I want to say to you in this and do this, even in role play, it wouldn't feel right to me at this point. Because that's not how they met. He loved her for these other things, and that's not where she comes from. And so even if they discussed it, and they were like, well, hey, these are things I like, these are things you like, she was never going to like those things because she just didn't grow up with them. And, yeah, okay, I love you. Let me just try a little bit of it. But she wasn't going to scratch the surface. So just imagine if they say opposites attract, and you got a real freak, and I don't mean an overboard fetish, but if you have a real freak and they get with somebody who's just not that, but they love them for all these other reasons, and sex becomes not the most important part of the relationship, then you may not want to do that with that person. But I don't know. Do you feel like you?
Yeah, because we live in this time, a horrible time, must I say, but we live in this time that sex is the only thing that matters to everybody, right? So it's like, no, I don't want to be in a relationship as if that's the only thing that's the relationship is. So it's like, yeah, I'm going to be a hoe for, it could be 2 years when I want to explore. All right, bet. You still have those desires. That didn't stop. So you say you've never been like satisfied from fellatio.
Yes. Nope.
But that one dude does it. You about to get in a relationship with him?
Or girl. That one dude
have
or woman.
Yeah, no. That one guy. Say if it happened tomorrow.
Or woman.
If the pronouns, okay.
Person.
So, Jesus Christ. See what I said
Go
about
ahead.
the times?
Go ahead.
So if this person happens tomorrow, right? Are you going to be in a relationship with them?
If they're not good at giving fellatio.
No, if they're great at it. Like, is that the determining factor?
No, that's not the determining factor.
Right,
There's a lot
exactly.
of other factors.
Right. So the point I'm making is we
What about
live
it?
in this time that the only conversation about relationships are not being satisfied comes with sex. So if you want to
Sex is a big
explore,
part of
it's a huge part of it.
relationships.
It's a huge part of it. But
Well,
we're talking about exploring
Can be.
and well, I want to be
me.
experienced. I want to be practiced. So when I get to that perfect woman, I got all these tools, is the word that you use, for that moment. It's like that's the only thing we're focusing on. We're I wouldn't say wasting.
helpful.
We're spending so much time on this one aspect of your life, and we're not even focusing on other things, and you're missing out on people
Yeah.
who
true.
can give you 80%, but you're like, nah, I want to explore. And that's the 20% of your life that you need really, nah, I get it.
On the contrary, I have.
Tell him the contrary, Tiana.
Well,
Tell him the contrary. Hey. Tell him the contrary.
On the contrary, I think that we focus a lot on relationships, and it's because you're saying this generation, this generation we're focusing a lot on sex. I feel like we're focusing a lot on relationships at like being one of the defining characteristics of success to us. Like I have all this, and this. I need to just get me a person to stick with me, and I'm a successful person. I feel like we emphasize that a lot. And we don't really emphasize, speaking for women in my community, we don't emphasize us knowing what we really like sexually in the bedroom. And I don't know what that entails. I don't know if that's us needing to have multiple partners or us needing to have a partner that's willing to go the mile and like really explore. But women, we're not encouraged or given the opportunity to really explore sexually and know what we like. We're kind of always pleasing, I feel like. And I do know women that can get themselves off, but I can, even speaking from my own experience, like I could benefit from really understanding my body. And I know a lot of women that feel the same way.
I agree and disagree.
Okay.
Part of that I agree with, but the part I don't is that when you say as women and the amount that you're able to explore, right? And I feel like it's so I feel like the same thing is happening to men, but men are in this position where there's certain things I think that's a great thing about the generation now is you are able to explore a little bit more. But I think there are certain things that a man can't or feels like he won't explore because, especially if you're heterosexual, because certain things, if you explore it, it might change that dynamic, whether in your head or whether how someone looks at you, depending on who knows it. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, let's say a man likes his nipples played with. Mm-hmm. If he tells his friends he likes his nipples played with, they may have the impression that he may be
gay.
Is it gay?
See how you? So he said gay, and then you said Izzy because you were respecting the not wanting to just put that on him. But nevertheless, you see how that was the first thing we thought of, right? And so even in that same way, it's like if a woman, prospectively, if a woman plays with herself and she does a good job and gets off, and that's shared with whoever it is, then it's like, okay, well, she played with herself. If a man does it, there's something that seems like it's nasty or nastier. Like, and I don't know if it's the the way that the ejaculation occurs, like, oh, your stuff's all over the place and mine is internal, or I don't know. But I know that there's this thing that if a man, anal lickage, I'm just going to make a word up, anal lickage. Yeah,
like
anal lickage. You like that?
Oh, it's cool.
Oh, you like anal lickage? Okay.
It's more of a domination thing, I would say, than a sensation thing for me.
Now watch this. Let's say if a man, very hetero, and he likes anal lickage.
Yeah, I know some.
Right? Oh. Threw me off. Yeah, they can't even see me. I'm looking at you like, oh, I'm wondering in my head, oh, you saw some? Oh. Okay, well, anal lickage. If you're into the anal lickage, then if a man does that, so I'll because I'm pretty comfortable with myself, and I remember that when it was attempted, I didn't like it because it made me feel that if I did like it, it meant something was wrong with me. Like, what? I like which in my case, considering I'm hetero. It was a woman, but it was still that situation where it was like, I didn't, it made me, my brain automatically went to like, and I'm going to be honest, and maybe I'm being more honest than I should be, but I was like, okay, that's interesting. Yep, licking me down there. All right. And then it was like, yeah, there's something weird because you messing with this area that's been off limits as long as I could remember, and so I didn't feel comfortable, right? But I think that the discomfort came from me being a man who felt like liking that is associated with something else, right? Fingers in there and all that stuff, something like that, and I do think that the generation now, I think that my age necessarily wouldn't see it, not me particularly, but my age maybe wouldn't see it this way. But I believe like if someone closer to either of your age had a finger in his
butt.
There you go. And see, I ain't even as comfortable saying it as you. Look how you just went on and said it. You just his butt. And you see me over here struggling with it like I need to call it something else.
I know dudes that do like that too.
So I think that's part of me feels like that's, if you're open about it, I feel like it's an age thing. I feel like older men.
The person wasn't open about it at first. It just takes some.
So you turned him out with your finger? Oh boy!
It's a conversation. Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I didn't just like, wah! But like you have to.
When you did it in a way where.
Yeah, like consensually, because obviously consent is important. You can't just.
So did you say, would you mind if I touch your back?
No.
Like what you? Like, how do you use consensually? Like
before,
you were like edging.
It's a conversation that you have before even. I think it's a conversation that you should have before you even get into anything like that. Like, would that be something that you're open to? Explaining my where I stand sexually, being a very open person that's willing to explore and try different things. Are you willing to explore as well? And do you have hard boundaries? And if you do, then I respect those boundaries. But if you're ready to explore, then giddy up! Let's go!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, D from Yucca Valley, she says, I think you should be able to do all you want with your mate. What makes it wrong to be a freak with them? And so I want to go and dive a little bit more into just the whole freaky part of it. Let's talk about fetishes. People like, since we kind of easing down that road anyway, people like they toes sucked and butts tucked. And
some people like to see people get scared from the balloon being popped.
Scared. We suspect that usually European Americans, they like to stand on things and almost be dead. Like
carpet, like human carpets.
You know what is that what it's called?
There's some people, they like to roll themselves up and they sit under a carpet and people stand on them and they get off by people.
That was not what I was talking about, but that's crazy.
That's also a fetish.
Wow.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah.
I never heard it. You saying that? Wait.
There's a famous guy too. I forget his name, but he goes around and he pays people to stand on him, and he lays under a carpet, and sometimes he does it for hours.
That's ridiculous.
Let's come back to that. When we come back, we're gonna talk about some freaky stuff. Once again, you can call us at 5, like we haven't already. You can call us at 502.
Log on to kcbzradio.com and check the schedule for Situation and Circumstance Live, complete with music, live phone call access, and additional audio and programming. Anthony and TBT would love for you to be a part of the live broadcast and recording of Situation and Circumstance at kcbzradio.com.
Older song for you youngsters. I mean, that's some sex happening there. Hey, look, you know, if you like comedy, if you love comedy, Robert Townsend's "Living the Shuffle" will be out in Berkeley October 25th through December 1st. Once again, Robert Townsend's "Living the Shuffle" will be there from October 25th to December 1st at the Marsh in Berkeley. That's at 2120 Allison, et cetera. That'll be Friday at 8 p.m., Saturdays 8:30 p.m., and Sundays at 5:30. Speaking of Robert Townsend, he had said a lot of lovely things. I want to just give a real quick shout out and arrest in positivity to John Witherspoon, who passed a little over a week ago, I believe. Great comedian. And if you don't know who that is, that's just from the bang, 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 bang,
Pops.
and the coordinate, right? And so he had a real lovely funeral. So I hate to do this, but we're going to jump back from that into, I believe Tiana was going to explain to us, she's going to give us an explanation of, for those who don't know, what a fetish is.
A fetish is a form of sexual desire in which gratification is linked to an abnormal degree to a particular object, item of clothing, part of the body, etc. So, for example, the human carpet that we discussed briefly.
Does somebody want
before
to
we
get
went
rolled up and stepped on?
Yes.
That's a
Someone
fetish.
gets off by getting rolled up and stepped on for hours, actually. And there's also a fetish for people who fall down the stairs. They get off to that.
Yeah.
Amputees.
Some
getting
people like
pooped on.
there's something suck that rhymes with blows. They're
Toes.
What?
See, I told you,
Wow.
every show you was gonna say. I
Jesus.
gotta
It's
do
funny because the baby has a song called Toes, and that's like my
yeah.
song. That's
Yeah.
my most recent.
Surprise, surprise.
No,
But it's
and
not about
the
that.
thing is, simply sucking toes isn't a fetish. The fetish would be that if you can get off from just sucking the toes, or I like that you explained that there's an abnormal amount of, and you know that. That's one of those things like, well, who decides?
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
Fun,
What's
what's
though.
abnormal?
It's fun.
But yeah,
You guys, I challenge you to next time you're engaging in intercourse to not, it doesn't have to be sucking toes, but like maybe lick the arch of the foot of the person that you're engaging with. That's just crazy. I mean, that stuff is crazy because, yeah, you just something that's super unexpected. I think that to touch parts that people don't usually have touched.
you
is
should see your
interesting.
lip curling up and your cheeks doing. Like, did you have just being honest? Did you have a particular thought of somebody doing it while you were explaining it?
The first time it happened to me, I was like, "Wow, I like this." I wouldn't expect it. Just licking from the heel to.
So is that a
So
fetish?
heel toe.
I would say it's a fetish,
so
but
is
not
that abnormal?
I don't know.
But
actually.
it'll be your fetish if you
I don't
like
know,
it
'cause
more than.
I didn't like. I really like it, but I wasn't like, I need this.
Oh, so just really liking it doesn't make it a fetish.
Yeah, I
But-
feel like
yeah.
it's something I enjoy, but it's not like I need you to do this.
But it goes back
Every
to like,
time.
because you was talking about a dude getting his butt licked,
Yeah.
right? And that's just cool. Mm-hmm. But say if a dude, that's not abnormal to y'all.
No,
But a dude getting rolled up in a carpet is abnormal to y'all.
it's a little
So
abnormal.
it's like it's subjective. Like, so if a dude gets
The
pegged,
dude in the carpet might be like,
if a dude likes getting penetrated,
yeah.
is that abnormal?
No, I would penetrate a guy.
So what would your Jesus Christ, would you get with him? Is that something that you can see?
I don't know.
Why?
Do you?
They have to like. I mean, I guess it depends on the situation. If we fall in love and really in love,
Then would you think you would eventually want him to stop wanting you to penetrate him if
I
you
don't
were
know.
if you
'Cause I
fell
haven't-
in love? Like when would it be like, I don't want to strap on anymore?
well, I have. There's a couple things. I was explaining to Julius earlier about my conflicting, like, because I grew up pretty black, like traditionally black in my household. So like sometimes that conflicts with some of the things that I encounter in the world because you have to unlearn things. So sometimes flags go off that might not necessarily go off if I try to remain as open-minded as possible. But I know that I would peg someone. But I haven't had the opportunity to peg a guy. But I definitely have put my finger in a guy's.
But these are not abnormal though, right? To you.
No.
But you well, so here's what I get with that.
It wasn't even all the way in though. It was like partial.
Just a knuckle.
No, that's pretty
right? Is that what you said?
First
One knuckle or two. What I do relate to what you said was that the whole like growing up black and then how that applies to certain things, right? So and then in this case, age sneaks up again because I remember with my generation, there was a point in time when I was a teenager and moving into young adulthood, the thing was if you were African American, Pan African, Black, whatever, if you were any of that, and you believed in fellatio on a woman, it was looked down upon. Like it meant that you couldn't perform otherwise, so you needed to use that tool of lickety split in order for you to be able to get any kind of kudos, and then you didn't tell anybody if you did it because it was like not necessarily me because I had already seen the flaw in that. I was like, y'all ain't telling nobody you do it. I'm gonna say it so that all them people that anyway, not all them, but all that to say that but that came from like growing up black, right? In those times was like that's not what we did. And then on the other hand, European Americans, it was something that it was considered that they did it all the time because then there was the stereotype that if you were European American or white, that it meant that you had a little Jimmy.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know that things
growing
are.
Up, I heard too, like from my grandmother and everyone that like, oh, men want to mess with white girls because they're gonna give them they're gonna suck their duck. And I'm just like, so wait, as a kid, listening to that, I'm like, so you ain't sucking ducks? So we don't suck ducks, but white girls suck ducks. I'm confused.
Right? And then there was something to that. So certainly for my age, it was one of those things where it did seem like European American women were more thrilled from my experience, not from my knowledge of what everybody did, but it seems like there was a different level of thrill to the sucking of duck.
Like from their perspective. They're more thrilled to do it.
Right. Like, but then again, as life carried on, then I was like, oh, okay, there's others, but there's, and can get off on that, which could potentially make that a fetish.
Right.
So if someone could get off
as well, they could be fetishizing you as a black man. Are you particularly talking about your?
I think we would call that a taboo at that point, right?
As well, I mean, I think they could both be existing at the same time, right? Like if a white woman gets off, you said these particular white women enjoyed it a lot more. Is that what you were saying?
It seemed like that.
Yeah, wouldn't that not be a fetish? Like them fetishizing over you?
Unless they just fetishize over the act.
The act, and I felt more like, I think it was a combo platter. Like, oh, you do get off on sucking duck, and it's a bonus that the duck happens to be, what do you call a male rooster? Oh, a cock. So it was a bonus that it was a big black cock.
And we're talking about the animal,
BBC.
The rooster.
I gotcha.
Okay.
I got an album called MBBC. Let's check it out.
So, okay. So bring it back.
Right. Where were we?
Oh, yeah. Big black cocks. No, I'm just kidding.
A rooster. It's a big
rooster.
black cock.
So porn, is that something that we're...
Watching porn with your partner?
Yeah.
I don't do it. I feel like it's a little weird for me. Because I don't want them to know exactly what I'm into. And I want them to reserve that for them. And I think that when it comes to us being together, that we should focus on us having in person. Like, you got the real thing. Like, let's get at it person to person. Why do we need to consume what's on?
Oh, yeah.
the screen and together. I don't know. I haven't done it I have done it, but I haven't like enjoyed it. I think I prefer when I have it in person, but I do consume porn as well. Don't get me wrong.
Do you think it would be something that you would enjoy more if it wasn't so obviously porn has a tendency to be, it's a little different if there's if the producer is a woman. I've noticed that it's a little bit different.
I know a lot of women that only get off to women on women porn, but are hetero women.
Well, and I didn't actually mean necessarily women on women. I meant like the woman is the one who wrote the actual porn. So there's what I've learned over a period of time is that it seems like the porn that it has, where women have put the porn together, there's more attention to, there's different details included in it as opposed to, it doesn't seem as silly and ridiculous. Like, two of us are sitting on the couch and then the pizza girl comes and we don't have enough money to pay, and she says, why don't I come in? You know, it just seems a little different. Stuff. And even the intimacy levels, and even that part at which, because foreplay doesn't start from, actually, many people think foreplay starts at the point that you are touching and licking and tasting and feeling, when foreplay starts with the mentality and the things that you're doing way before it gets to that point. And I feel like when women produce a porn, or even sexual acts in terms of inside of movies, there's a lot more attention to... I don't know, it feels more real to me. That's not to say that if I watched a porn, I wouldn't sometimes want it to get right to the point. Yeah. But just like in life, like when we're actually having the sex, right? Yeah, there's people who don't want any foreplay. They just want you to get it. Come get this.
That's not me.
But there's some instances, I'm sure, right? Like a quickie, like you just on lunch or something. Like you just got to pull up. Like just get straight to the thing.
Okay. Well, that's okay.
Well, and then
it's time. I mean, time is a hell of a thing, right?
When is a fetish too much, though? I think is my thing is like, because there's so the logical thing is when there's consent from both parties, then it's not too much, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe, though. So what if two people consent? What if a male and a female, or two males or two females, it don't even matter the dynamics of that. What if they got together and they decided to bring I don't know, they've decided to bring a llama in bed with them?
See, no llamas.
I know that I'm just saying people do it.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, the other thing, llamas and goats and pigeons and chickens and whatever. So, you right?
Dubai be wildin'.
Right. So, in Dubai, right. So, I'm wondering.
There's a couple, this is coming from like, not my personal experience, but I listened to a podcast where the porn star Tiana Trump was talking about how she knew two other porn stars who went to Dubai and got paid a bunch of money for like having intercourse with dogs, and I was like, that's interesting. But she said that a lot of sex workers do that. Go there and do some crazy stuff.
Expensive prostitutes on the planet are actually in Dubai. That's where the most expensive prostitutes. I can't remember her name, but she makes $10,000 in an hour. She's a Barbie. She looks like a Barbie, like a real Barbie, but she makes $10,000 an hour. And she getting paid.
Did you have to get surgery for that?
She did get surgery. She had some bones taken out of her ribs, and she had some things done to her face, and she had some things done to her eyes so they look bigger.
Right, and Barbie like.
But she getting $10,000 a pop. $10,000 for an hour.
Hey,
$10,000.
Barbara.
What would you let somebody? No. I ain't gonna even ask you because you just so stirred in your. Wait.
No,
for $50,000, would you let
ain't no way
your girl stick her finger in your booty?
Yes, you
for
would.
For $50,000.
Not all money's good money, man.
No, you lied. Just one finger. It's your girl.
It's my
I'm the one that's being penetrated.
How dare you?
What if that's what she really wants?
It's happening to me.
Wait.
It's not her. It's like, would you just do this? Would you get like what?
Every day.
Earlier you said if you could just be with the same person and you guys could talk about these different things, so you don't have to get it from having the whole phase. I think we were talking about, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to go through any of that because you could just be with the person, and then you guys can have a relationship where you should be able to try different things. Mm-hmm. So
Nobody said that was. I didn't say that's part of the trying. And we also brought up boundaries. Like if she said we did. So okay.
boundaries.
So if my girl wants to put a dildo on and screw me.
Is that a finger?
No. Because we talking because we
His
talking
face.
about the whole thing is if your girl wanted to do it, would you do it? That's the same thing.
For $50,000 though.
But y'all missing the point. It's like boundaries, right? So no is a no. Just because a
Okay.
finger or a dildo,
$50,000.
but you want to like code it as like, well, you just said your girl wants to do and y'all ready to explore. So if that's the case, if she threw out a llama, and I'm like, well, that's my girl. I've been with her for 50 years. We could just do it. That seems very extreme to y'all, as it does to me for that stuff. So y'all can do those things that
would
you
it be
enjoy.
okay? Would you let her maybe just have the llama without you?
Her mama.
I mean, what do you have against llamas? Can she just get the llama and get down, and then y'all still stated she didn't technically, or is that cheating?
Oh
She's
my
cheating on you with the
God.
llama. Go call that llama.
Does it matter if the llama's bigger? Would you let? Okay, wait. Would you let this for both of y'all? Would you let your other?
Yes, no, I'm just
And,
kidding.
and assuming that you're in a,
Wow.
it makes sense that you said yes. So because
the
yours is kind of
Off the rip, huh?
Questionable.
Would you allow your other? Would you be okay with them using a toy on themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
And so I asked both of y'all, but I kind of knew your answer, Tiana. But I'm trying to not that I'm.
Yeah.
But would you let her use? Would you? So if you had a significant other and you're hetero, I believe, right?
Yes.
Okay, and would you let them
Make no
have
confusion.
I knew, but I just for the people, man. And so would you let her use a dildo or a vibrator on herself internally? So a lot of people just think like the rabbit that's on the outside and it just out there on the outside. Would you let her do it inside with one of those?
Yeah,
And would you be okay if it was extremely bigger than what you are?
that doesn't
That's a
have
good question because I know that there's some people.
I thought he was talking to me.
Oh,
No,
sorry.
I'm playing. No, continue. You know a lot of people.
I'm just saying. I just heard that some guys have a problem with that, with it being bigger than them.
Insecure? Yeah, no, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
I'm one of them insecure ones, then I guess.
Really?
Because what I feel like is I don't want to go behind bigger. Because what happens is, especially now, if it's a one night stand and some of those things, that's different. But I was saying in somebody in a relationship.
Yeah. I wouldn't.
And what happens when you are in a relationship with someone is that you're, in a lot of cases, your bodies assimilate to each other.
Right.
And so whatever size has been going in there, if it's smaller than, she could have been with somebody big all that time and then get with you and then you're smaller. And then after a while, even without using Kegels, by the way, Kegels are something that women can use inside of them to make their stuff stronger. But even without using that, the smallerness, it can, it'll their vaginal area will squeeze in a little bit more and it'll conform a little bit more. Not saying it'll go all the way. And so I feel like when you're with somebody for a while, you have conformed to each other's shape and feel. And I feel like I wouldn't want you to put something. This is not to say this isn't coming from anybody. I don't think anyone who feels this way, it automatically means that, oh, you feel inadequate, like you're small. But I'm saying, I don't know when the last time you've been in an adult store, but there are dildos and vibrators that are thick as your thigh.
Damn.
Yeah,
Damn near.
That's ridiculous.
What about?
Well, that's ridiculous.
Do you feel insecure if you have never made your girl have an orgasm, but she can only orgasm on using a toy?
I wouldn't. I would
Yeah,
feel like
no.
I should be able to learn from the toy, and I should be
So
willing
you
to.
gotta vibrate.
I mean,
Stupid. Nah, that's.
it is possible. You can make things vibrate. You can hum and buzz and
I wouldn't feel insecure about it. I mean, that's what the toy's made for, right? Like, there's some
That's
things
what
that
it's made
humans
for.
just can't do, or that partner can't do. You
Yeah,
just
but
gotta
what
know
if
that
you
about
never
yourself.
made her orgasm and she like it's like instant with the toy? Like you've never had.
Insecurity is not really. I can't speak for everyone, but insecurity has never been like my downfall. So I don't feel insecure and inadequate in that particular field.
Okay.
But I can see one saying yes.
Okay, well, a lot of women don't.
Don't what?
Some don't have a lot of women have a hard time having an orgasm, and some of them don't ever in life.
Yeah.
And I'm 25 years old, and no person has ever made me orgasm. Only toys.
You have just made so many listeners feel challenged. They will start, I need to meet her. I could do it. 'Cause that's how men do,
that's
right?
how they feel.
That's how men
exactly.
do,
But
right?
it doesn't. It's sorry, buddy. No,
Yeah, but that's the
probably
point. That's why I don't like
Well-
being insecure. It's like that's okay.
And
I
there's
know-
a few reasons that could, and there's so many possibilities as to why that could be.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean, like, yeah, I mean, we could start a whole nother conversation based on why you may or may not have
Yeah, it could
had.
be mental, physical.
It could be mental, it could be physical, so it doesn't matter if you had the extreme best and somebody who knew all the things,
Yeah.
it still may not happen for you.
Yeah.
And then there's people who, there's women who may not have any, that may only be able to have the, that can't have a vaginal orgasm, but can have a clitoral one.
External, yeah.
But then there's some that can have an anal one that can't have
That's
either of the
crazy.
other two because there's a different area of the G-spot you reach with. I've just noticed the time. So, and as always, we promise our listeners that we will continue to make beautiful mistakes. We embrace the opportunity afforded by our ancestors to speak. Whether right or wrong, weak or strong, we be learning humans working on liberation and scaffolding a meaningful and fair existence for all. Till the next time, my netches.
Situation and circumstance. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. Can we see each other with only a glance? Situations and circumstances. Fight for wisdom, not ignorance. Trying to avoid it is not a lonely dance. Can we see each other with only a glance?
Cake mix and race mixes, matrix, kill the witches, 3 digits, made of 6s, KKK or white privilege, old spirits, blood riches, real hatred, fake forgiveness, skinny image, fat problems, I don't really know how we solve them, gods made us, kings gave us, 2 enslavers, 2 enslavers, castaways on railways, underground dark web pages, Marvel heroes, connect the zeros, connect the pharaohs, bone marrow, Egyptian princes, dark and ancient, preserve the patience, black and Haitian, white and Asian, British coaches, eat crustaceans, ocean roaches, Illuminati, inject the bodies, GMOs, drug hobbies, Aboriginal, Pan-African, old biblical, reincarnation, hip-hop playlists, vocal rangers, sexist wages, sex changes, the game of life, bullets fly, ruin nights, players clueless, kids' rights, humans fight, nature loses, hard of hearing, Dolomite, Darwinism, Garvanite, hates a virus, terabytes, hard to live with, parasites.